During the late Middle Ages, one young woman saw a vision and took action, changing the course of Western history by fighting and dying for her convictions. But was she a saint, a heretic, or neither? Born in 1412 to Jacques d'Arc and Isabella Romy, Joan was raised in the small village of Domremy in northeastern France. From an early age, Joan proved to be pious, regularly attending Mass and living with intent focus on God, Jesus, and the saints. This despite not knowing how to read or write. And for most of us, we know her simply as Joan of Arc. Joan was born about 75 years into the Hundred Years' War, a series of conflicts that lasted 116 years between the French and English kingdoms. During this time, the two rival dynasties, consisting of 5 generations of kings, battled to obtain the throne, and thereby becoming the largest kingdom in Western Europe. Historians separate the war into 3 distinct phases: the Edwardian War, the Caroline War, and the Lancastrian War, which is where we find Joan of Arc. Barely a teenager in 1425, Joan's village was raided by English mercenaries. The incident only strengthened the resolve to remove the English within French borders. Shortly after the raid, Joan was in the garden near the church when she saw who she described as Saint Michael the Archangel and angels appearing before her. Weeping upon their departure, Joan said she was approached several more times with visions of Saint Michael, as well as Saints Margaret the Virgin and Catherine of Alexandria. The visions instructed her to leave Domremy and to help the Dauphin Charles drive the English out of France, thereby making him king. Joan was also told of her mission to lead the French army to victory against the English. In the 3rd year of seeing visions, and after 2 failed attempts seeking permission, she was finally to meet the Dauphin. The 2 knights escorting her along with her disguise as a young man helped to keep Joan safe on the journey to Chinon. Impressed by Joan's story, the Dauphin sought to put her in the forefront for relief of Orleans, after first secretly testing her to determine her authenticity of faith. Showing herself as a moral Christian with spotless character, Joan silenced the naysayers and commanded her army with charm and confidence. She then became known to everyone as the Maid of France. On the battlefield, Joan inspired the troops, yelling "In the name of God" as she rode a white charger while waving the white banner. Despite foot and shoulder wounds, Joan carried the troops to victory after 4 bloody days of battle. Joan turned her aim to ensuring Charles would be crowned her king as part of God's mission. On July 17, 1429, Joan witnessed Charles' coronation at Reims Cathedral after a victory in the Battle of Patay. But Joan's fighting was not done. She continued to fight for the removal of English enemies from French territory, despite King Charles wishing to handle other matters of state. Joan was eventually captured in May 1430 in Compiègne by the French allies, the Burgundians, a capture the voices in her head told her would occur. She began her months of imprisonment in a tower at Beaurevoir Castle, captivity that only ended after she leapt from the tower in desperation. Surviving the 70-foot fall, she was quickly recaptured and was then sold to the English in November of 1430. In the new year, she was put on trial in Rouen for witchcraft and heresy. The 2 charges against her, hearing voices from God and having worn men's clothing, were responded to by Joan quite calmly and with intellectual honesty. But it was all in vain. She was to be put to death. On May 30th, 1431, the teenager was walked to Rouen's Vieux Marche, where, while holding a cross, she was burned at the stake 3 times so as to reduce her body to mere ashes, which were then cast into the Seine River. Her body was gone, but her legacy was just beginning. After 25 years, her original trial was ruled unjust, thereby clearing her name and determining her excommunication null. She continued to be celebrated as a heroic symbol of France for the next several centuries, before talks of sainthood emerged. In 1909, Joan was beatified by Pope Pius X before her canonization in 1920. A saint, a martyr, a hero, a heretic, Joan of Arc remains a controversial figure with many questions left unanswered. What is unquestionable was her devotion and faith in God, and her willingness to sacrifice all to Him. I would rather die than do something which I know to be a sin or to be against God's will.